Good morning. Just checking. Just checking that because I know people. Hello to everyone who's joining. I'm just checking because doesn't seem like people's sound is. Morning, everyone. Oh no, no, we are still morning for a whole minute. Just going to check the settings for people's cameras and microphones. Okay, so I'm gonna. Thanks everyone for joining. Right, so everyone. Okay, for some reason, even though the settings were set to camera and microphone, they aren't working. I'm just trying to change it in the back end, but I don't know if I'll be able to now the event has started, which is slightly frustrating. So I'm really sorry about that. So okay, so I think we'll just make a start and I'll see if I can fix this on the back end whilst we're having this conversation. Jennifer, if you could just share the slides.
Yep, so I believe I'm sharing. Can you see the first slide? Yep. Vince is nodding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see
Okay.
it.
Great. Do you want to go to the next slide, Ellie?
I can't see the slides, but if hopefully people can see the slides and it's just me having a bit of an issue on my end. So yeah, we'll make a start. So thank you everyone for joining today. My name is Ellie Stevenson. I'm the market lead and a trustee for FLIS, which stands for Female Leaders in STEM Subjects. So we're really grateful to be hosting this webinar today. And so it's all about how you can learn to network and just some of the tips and tricks. And we're very lucky to have two of our speakers with us today. So we have Vince Pizzoni and Jennifer McDonald, and I will let them do their introductions. But just one last point, I'm assuming it's the next slide, but if you haven't joined up to FLIS or are interested in being a mentor or becoming a mentee, then please reach out to us. I believe Julia, who is our founder, will be sharing a link in the chat as well. And it will, yeah, so if you want to find out more, then please reach out to us. But without further ado, I will hand over to Jennifer to introduce herself.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellie, for facilitating today. Hi, everyone. I am Jennifer McDonald. I'm glad to see the slides are working on the live stream. And I'm a chemical engineer by background who has now founded an organisation called Engineering Inclusion, which is supporting engineers with more than their technical ability. So thinking about what their skills are for other opportunities. And my current day job is I'm the head of diversity and inclusion at the Royal Academy of Engineering. And I'm a self-proclaimed mingler. So my career started offshore and I got my chemical engineering degree and then I sailed off to Canada and the US to work with an oil and gas organization as a mud engineer on platforms. So I spent 7 years mainly on night shift, doing 3 weeks on and 3 weeks off. So I lived in platforms like the one here. I use this image a lot for when I talk to schools because it looks like a spaceship. And that's how isolated you can sometimes feel. But I absolutely loved it and I thrived in that environment. And the photograph on the left is me at Christmas time. I've got my Christmas jumper on. And that is me in Scotland, offshore in Aberdeen, working on a platform there. And I really enjoyed it. It's a very extreme environment. You don't see the sun if you're working on nights for a long time in the winter. And you're working with 140 other professionals, of which each professional has a very specific role and a very specific job. And you are responsible for your area. I was responsible for all the chemicals on board, for the drilling department, and everything involved in that. So getting them from the boats to the harbour, the boats to the platform that I was on, the storage of them, where they were stored for regulation, how they were used, how much I needed to order, and then how much I needed to send back. And that was a very closed box to me, and I loved it. I was often the only female on the platform. There was sometimes female laundry and chefs support, which was amazing, and I enjoyed working with them. And a few female engineers who I met sporadically throughout my career, but it wasn't unusual for me to be the only person in the room or on the drilling platform package and coveralls. After 7 years, I decided I wanted to do something different. So I took some time out and I went to work in a diversity and inclusion role with the University of Strathclyde, making engineering and manufacturing more inclusive. So I went from coveralls and hard hats 1 week to literally suits, microphones, speaking events, and lots of emails, like hundreds of emails that I'd never experienced before. And when you're responsible for chemicals, most of your emails are around there's so many tons of X and so many tons of Y. My emails started coming in with huge amounts of information, documents I needed to summarize, government information that was up to date, research that needed to be done, all between speaking events, finding stakeholders, talking a lot about what the diversity inclusion space needs to look like in Scotland. And I felt so out of my comfort zone. This was the alien life form that I did not understand. I'd never worked in an office. I'd never experienced these kind of environments. And you're suddenly deemed a role model, which I thought a role model was what I was before when I was a STEM ambassador in schools and between my shifts. But this was a different world to me. And at some points, I felt like I was really failing. And the consistent networking was just felt exhausting and never ending, really. I never felt like I'd finished the job or had finished the day, if you like, if you were at all these networking events. At this time, I found out I was neurodivergent, I'm dyslexic, which made a lot of things make sense in a way to me and how I worked. And I've been able to navigate that through my work now. And I do a very similar job now, just in London where I'm based. And what I've learned and what I've carried on throughout the last few years is these tips and tricks that get you through the networking. So although people might think an oil rig is a very unique environment that would need to be handled with care, that is where I'm most comfortable in a conference hall, talking and speaking and navigating these things. I feel really out of my depth. And these are the 6 myths that I think I assumed when I started this role, or these roles, that I've debunked, and I've got a hack for each of them. So I hope they're helpful for you. And yeah, we'll get started on the first one. So my first myth that I experienced coming into networking in this way was I must speak to everyone to benefit from the event. So I was like a busy bee running around trying to get everyone to speak to me, trying to understand what their relationships were with the organization that I worked for, being the last to leave. So I never felt like I could leave earlier than the 5:30 networking drinks. And it just meant I was exhausted the whole time. And I didn't feel like I was getting value out of it, but I didn't really know what the alternative would look like. So my hack, I don't know, I assume I'm just going to assume a lot of nods with these. I think these are quite universal and people do feel these six myths often, just from my experiences talking to people and my network. So the hack that I found for this that works for me is before you arrive at that event. So if you've got a conference or a networking event, something like today, where you're going to meet lots of people, and it's going to be more people than you could ever speak to, pick a number when you're in the car or on the bus or coming to the event that will mean that once you've reached that, you've felt like you've made a significant impact and that you've done your day's job, and everything else is a bonus. So instead of thinking, oh, I didn't speak to everyone, I've failed, I spoke to 3 more people than I expected to today. I did really well. And it keeps your energy up and it gives you a goal. So I do this often. I was at an event last night and I thought, if I could meet 4 new people and have meaningful conversations with them tonight, that is value add for me. And I spoke to maybe 7. So I was delighted with that. You can come away feeling energized and valued and take that forward. So that is my first hack and it works for me every time. And I've handed this to other people and they really enjoy using it too. My second hack is my second myth, sorry, is I must wear what others wear. And I found that really challenging because I had 7 years of being told what to wear and I had to wear coveralls and a hard hat every day and radio and gloves and etc. And then suddenly you're in this environment. I was convinced I had to wear like black trousers, white shirt, lanyard. And I did that, but it didn't feel very fun for me. So I decided, and you'll see this from my LinkedIn, please add me on LinkedIn. I wear bright, colourful suits. And I'll really be honest, I love 2 layers of clothing, because if you sweat through the first one, it doesn't show in the second. And that is how I live my life. So I wear blazers all the time. I feel really comfortable. I feel like I can sit up straight in them. They have pockets. Find what works for you. So my hack to this is bring your personality to your clothing and it will help the conversation too. So if you're wearing something different, I wear badges on my lapels sometimes. So sometimes it could be you're a star with a little star. And I gather these up over my time. Or yes, you can, or don't stop until you're proud. They're the 3 that are my favourites. But have something on your clothing that you like and you like to talk about. And then when people approach you, they can make a point of saying, oh, I like your blazer or I like your badge. Or what does your badge say, in my example? But also you can use that to your advantage. If people are wearing interesting things to you, instead of going up and having to start a conversation about like a networking conversation traditionally, you can go up and say, oh, I really love your blazer. That's a really nice color. And it just completely normalizes the conversation and gets you moving into it very lightly before you start. So don't feel like there's a pressure to wear a particular thing. Also, when I'm wearing my blazers, it's usually because I'm speaking or I'm at an event for speaking. You don't need to be that formal. Wear what you're comfortable in, especially if it's a long day of conference. Yeah, so that's my tip 2. The third is I should be able to easily come up with interesting conversation on the spot. I don't know about you, but I kind of thought everything was really unrehearsed and natural, and everyone had such an insightful bank of information. And I just felt like I was going, quite a lot before the conversation even started. So my hack for this is have a few like questions prepared before you arrive. I can tell you my bank, there's 2 or 3 that I use all the time, and they're vague enough that people can give you the answer they're comfortable with, and it doesn't pinhole you that people will think, oh, that's a weird question to start with. Things like, have you travelled far today? Everyone can answer that. And it means that even if the person's the organizer and they're running the whole thing, that it's a question that they can answer without you being like, who are you? And then the other one that I use a lot is, how did you hear about the conference? How did you hear about this event? Because everyone will have a really interesting point to that. And it could be, oh, I got it online, but it starts the conversation. You can say, oh, I did too, or I heard from it from a friend, and it starts that conversation a lot easier than what it could be in person. So I have my few little questions in my head all the time, and I have how many people I want to network with, how many new people I want to network with before I go to the meeting, the event, for success. Number 4. I am defined by my current job. The amount of things that I've been to where you've said, oh, what do you do? And they've talked about, the person's talked about their current role. And then you get to the end of the conversation, or you get halfway through and they say, yeah, I really don't enjoy it. And you're like, oh, right. Oh, and then you could, in other ways, you can see them get bored about talking about actually what they do, which just means it's hard for me to get excited about it if you're not. So my hack is to talk about where you want to go or what fuels you. So if you're a graduate engineer in IT, you don't need to talk about the IT project that you're currently working on. You can talk about, I invested in IT because I want to support the transition between this or that, or I'm working in IT right now as a graduate, but I would really like to go into this area because this is why I'm really interested. It means as a person who doesn't know you, you can kind of get an idea of what you're interested in, and I can bring something to that. So for example, I can say, oh, I know someone who works in IT who does this. Maybe you should connect with them. Or I know someone who started as a graduate person in IT and felt the same as you, and now they do X, Y, and Z. So they pivoted, and that might be an interesting person for you to speak to. So instead of focusing on what you do right now, because you probably know loads of graduate IT engineers, because that's your network right now, that's your immediate, expanding that on how you want to be seen or recognized, so that I can, as a new person to you, help you or support you if I can, and what your next steps are. Also things like, if you've got a day job, but you've got a passion for something slightly aligned. So for example, I have a day job, but I also run a business. I can talk about my business. I don't need to talk about my day job all the time, because it adds value to what the conversation can be. So that's my hack 4. My 5th myth is I must always ask deep, meaningful questions to show my intelligence. There is nothing more stressful for me as someone who goes to a lot of these things to be having my first coffee of a conference just off the bus, just trying to organize myself, and someone comes up to me and says, hi, what is your biggest business mistake and how do you think you've learned from it? You're just like, suddenly I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, right, okay, I've got 10 years of experience in this. What year do I want to focus on? How do I want to navigate this? It's really important to ask questions that people want to answer, but also understand where people might be in their day and what they're thinking about and how they want to engage with you. So and this is one of the things that I think LinkedIn influencers do a lot. They say, ask big questions, show your intelligence, show you know these people. There's a place for that, but not as the first question when you're engaging with people. So my 5th hack is think about what you would like to be asked at a conference by someone new. So if you're comfortable answering that question, probably out of the blue, probably someone else would be too. So things like, what have you really enjoyed doing this week? Instead of me considering what my business decisions have been in the last 10 years or so, I'm suddenly reflecting on the last few days and saying, oh yeah, I really enjoyed this conference I went to, or I really enjoyed this project. So that's really important. So have a think about that. You can practice that beforehand as well, which makes life a lot easier. Yeah, and consider how you're engaging with people. And my final one is once you've had that conversation, you've connected with someone at a conference or a networking event, and you feel like you've got that rapport and you connect with each other on LinkedIn, there is no need for you to ask immediately for something from them. For example, oh, I would love to know if there's a job available, or can you get me involved with this project or that project? Don't ask for asking's sake. And I think some people feel like, oh, if I'm not getting something from that immediately, then I've wasted that opportunity. Thank everybody for their time. That is so important. Everyone's limited to time in the same way. So thank everyone for their time and appreciate that both of you have put in energy already. You've both had that conversation and you're going to go on and move on to different areas. And then if there is a particular ask that you would like to have later down the line, like a review of something or an opportunity to talk to them on something else, be very consistent on what you would like to, concise on what you would like from them through LinkedIn or through meeting them again or through asking for something. Don't feel like that runs out of time. You have that in the bank. Use that when it's most appropriate and not ask something on the day because you feel like you need to. So that's me. That's my 6 myths of mingling and what hacks for success look like. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Put them in the chat, or we'll talk about them after in the breakout rooms around how you think you could fit these into your life and which myths you actually believe or don't believe. But I'll hand over now to Vince, who will lead on the Mastering LinkedIn.
That's brilliant, Jennifer. Thank you for that. And I'll let you know when to change the slides. Perfect. If that's okay. So great tips, brilliant tips. I've just written down very quickly, quality, not quantity, in terms of connections, being positive, asking open questions, talking about future career ambitions, sitting in the other person's shoes, and of course, a big thank you at the end. Thank you very much for those tips. Brilliant. So if you want to go to the next slide, I've got, yeah. So very briefly, I mean, I think if you don't know me, I could spend all day on my career. I've been around so long, but anyway, just very briefly, I have chemical and environmental engineering background. I started off technically, I then moved into commercial marketing, and I ended up in general management. So my career has very much followed one of getting more into general management role as opposed to following a very vertical career, technical career. I've worked all over the world, worked in over 60 countries, and I've got a portfolio which combines education, mentoring and sponsorship, the energy transition, equity, diversity, and inclusion. These are things that are important to me in my life. So what I want to spend some time with today on is LinkedIn. That's the agenda. So the next slide, please, Jennifer, and I'll go straight into it. So you may or may not know, but LinkedIn now has got well over 1 billion members. For me, it is the key social media available today for networking, and I use it a lot. I'm going to talk to you about how I use it, and hopefully that will give you some thoughts about how you can use LinkedIn in terms of your careers. So we're going to talk about branding. We're going to talk about how you can tap into the industry network and how you can effectively network with people on LinkedIn. Very important area. Next slide, please. Jennifer, that's great. So one of the first things I talk to people about is understanding your own brand. Everybody, you, me, and everybody online here and everybody around has got a brand. I remember talking to my students about this and they thought, how can I have a brand? I'm just a ordinary undergraduate at university. I said, no, actually, you've got a brand. It's how you present yourself to others. And we're all different. We all have our own brand. And one of the key things for me in terms of LinkedIn is understanding what your brand is. So I just told you a little bit earlier about the some of the pillars that are important to me in terms of what I do in my work. And what I try and do now is reflect those key pillars, those 4 pillars, in all the work that I do on LinkedIn, particularly around mentoring and sponsorship of people in industry, many of them women and many from underrepresented backgrounds in the STEM career areas. So it's all about engaging actively. You might need to take courage and just get out there and start the ball rolling in terms of building your brand. But I can tell you that over time you'll become much more comfortable about doing that. We are all special. We're all unique. So please don't feel as though you've got nothing to offer. You all have something to offer. We all have something to offer. It's all about showcasing your expertise and then networking authentically in the way that's important to you. Next slide, please, Jennifer. Yeah. So I'm sure most of you will be on LinkedIn, and it's all about creating a professional profile, which links to some of the things there I've got on the right hand side. And I think what people often forget is the headlines underneath the name. Sometimes they just put what their current role is or their last role, but the reality is that you're more than just your defined last role, as Jennifer talked about. You're actually considerably more. So you can see some of the things that I've put on mine, and certainly for what's important to me is trying to highlight those in all the work that I do. So first of all, get a professional profile picture and everything else, and make sure that that stands out and reflects who you are. Next slide, please. I think we know how to find job opportunities through LinkedIn, and they have a specific section for that, and there are opportunities for internships, industrial placements, and of course graduate jobs and direct hire jobs. There's an opportunity to connect with recruiters as well. So finding jobs through LinkedIn, it is a route to find jobs, should be you're looking for jobs, and certainly I would use it in conjunction with other websites that are important for you. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so this one this one is quite important to me, and I think the next one will be as well. So there's an example here that I've put on. So I follow Equinor. Equinor is a major energy company in Europe, and I am a great believer in not just following companies but following their leaders. So this gentleman here I've started following. He's a senior guy and he posts a lot on LinkedIn. And I follow him, I like him, and I comment, and he comes back and likes and comments on what I report. We've never met. And that's the thing that you'll find through LinkedIn. You can have a situation where most of your connections you've never met in person, but because of the dialogue that you've got going, often the two-way, it almost feels like you know them. And that's the way that you can actually both follow people who are leaders in the sector, but also how you can become a leader yourself. And I got another example where I followed the CEO of another huge energy company. He posted frequently on LinkedIn. I liked and commented on his posts, and actually he then commented on my posts. And again, I'd never met the guy, but we ended up in following each other and commenting on each other's posts. So I think it's important that you follow people as well as companies. Next slide, please, Jennifer. Here's an opportunity as well for you to do what's important for you. And what I've got is I've got a couple of slides here that show you how I can make content or produce content on LinkedIn. On the left-hand side is what I do in terms of mentoring and sponsoring people. So mentoring and sponsorship go together in my personal view. It's not just about me mentoring people, it's about me sponsoring them as well. Very often they might have a reluctance to do it themselves, but hopefully what I can try and do is open the door to them. So on the left-hand side are actually people that I mentored who are businesswomen in Ukraine. and they don't get the opportunity to actually use social media a lot. And I felt it was very important, and they agreed, that I highlighted what they were doing to get them to a much wider audience. So actually, what I've done is I've posted about them on LinkedIn. Underneath there are some pictures as well. And what I've done, of course, is I have opened them to my 15,500 connections. And in fact, I've put some specific ones on there that I particularly wanted to tag so that they could read about these individuals. As a result of that, some of my connections who are based in the UK have actually had contact with one or two of those individuals, and have been able to open doors to other areas of the business that they would never have thought of. And I think this is, for me, this is one of the most important reasons I use LinkedIn. It is to both mentor and sponsor individuals. I met somebody the other day at a conference in London. She's just starting a new business, new coaching business. And literally I was sitting next to her. I said, well, got to know her a bit. How about if I post something on LinkedIn about what you're doing, and open that up to my network? And that's exactly what I did within a couple of days. And again, we're seeing a lot of progress from individuals being able to do that. On the right hand side is something that I posted about, funnily enough, about networking, which was a LinkedIn post. And again, there's an opportunity for you to not just post about activities that you've been involved in, but also to post about what I would call thought leadership. And again, I come back to this point: do not feel as though you have nothing to offer other people and the LinkedIn site. You have lots to offer. And again, I make the point to people who perhaps don't use LinkedIn a lot, is that if I am tagged on your posts, then I will like them. I will probably comment. And when I do that, you may think it's gone to 50 or 100 of your connections, but it's now actually gone to 15,000 of mine. And this is a very important way of networking. And what I then suggest to those individuals is that when that mentoring and sponsorship post has gone out, when I've liked, have a look at the people who have liked what they've seen, and there will be a lot of people there who are second and third degree connections. And my advice is to reach out to them. Those are people who are going to get you the opportunities outside of your current range of opportunities. So there's an opportunity there to link up with people that you would never have had in your network before. So I think maybe that's probably it, Jennifer, is it? I think there may be, if there's a last, yeah. So I'll finish on that. So just to sort of conclude, there is nothing more important in terms of networking than LinkedIn. It is a place where you can certainly keep your contacts and develop your contacts. And don't forget, the way LinkedIn works is it's first degree, second degree, and third degree connections. The people that you know very well are in your first box, and if they know that you're looking for something, they will help. But actually, in reality, you need to get to the second and third. How are you going to do that? You're going to do that by the ways that I talked about, through friends and friends of friends, but also by reaching out to people directly. And I guess the other thing I would say is be courageous. You have nothing to lose. The worst thing that can happen is somebody doesn't respond, but that doesn't take you any further back than you were at the beginning. And in fact, what you'll find is that people will want to work with you and help you. So that's my piece. Thank you again for listening. And of course, Jennifer and I would be delighted to talk to you further. I think we've got some plans now to move forward with, which Ellie is going to take us forward with. Maybe you can just take over now, Ellie.
Yeah, thank you so much, both of you. Jennifer, if you just want to stop sharing your screen for a moment. So we're actually going to do a couple of Q&As just before we go into the breakout rooms. And I just wanted to touch on what a great presentation that was from both of you. And I think there were some really interesting points on there, particularly one of those things is that I've really taken away from that is about sort of putting yourself out there a bit more and kind of overcoming those sort of feelings of like not feeling senior enough, or not feeling like you have something to say, and that can be a really overwhelming feeling when you are at the start of your career. But I thought one of the things, Jennifer, that you said that was really interesting was about thinking about who you're speaking to and where they are in the day. And I know I've definitely been at some conferences where there's been a couple of us standing around and someone has gone quite hard on questions about, you know, career and business and where they're going. And you can see on their face they just want to talk about the day that they're having and the conference and the speakers. And so I think there is something about people remembering that people are still people and having different days, and actually engaging with someone and having just a good conversation with them that's not necessarily about work, but just a good conversation is such a good start, because then it then can then lead you into that conversation about work and about those prospects and about how you can kind of get something. But starting with something like I have always found has been a really, really good starting point. So if there are any questions, I know there's been some really nice conversations happening in the chat, which I can see. People are able to put their cameras on and microphones now. Please don't feel like that you need to. But if there are any questions, if anyone, just feel free to raise your hand. But I just wanted to touch on something that Sarah McCafferty has said in the comments around Jennifer, actually, about one of your hacks. And actually feeling that that she has the other problem of that she actually feels that she needs to give something to her connection rather than asking for them. So I just thought what your feelings were or thoughts were around that.
Yeah, I think if the conversation goes well and you hear from this person what their next steps are or what they would like to do, I find it a lot easier now that I can understand where they'd like to go next. I will say things like, if you're ever applying for an award, let me know, I'll review your first draft. Or if you're ever looking for a particular advice on anything, please contact me on LinkedIn, and leave that invitation open so that to allow that person to engage with me in the best way that they feel is valuable. Yes, but I agree with you, Sarah. Sometimes you meet someone and you think they're amazing, but you're not quite sure where that could go. And yeah, I don't have a better answer than that. Sorry, Vince, do you have any thoughts on that?
I just come off the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed, Sarah. Sometimes you start a conversation with someone and you're thinking, I need to, what can I bring them? But you got to, I think a lot of this, I think the most important part of the networking conversation, by the way, is the listening bit at the beginning. So my strategy is often to get the conversation going from their side, and that then allows me to build something on the back of it. So I think a lot of this is about listening to the other individual and getting them to perhaps open up a little bit more, so that you can then follow up with something that seems relevant to them. We actually haven't spoken as well, Jennifer, about how to get out of a networking discussion when it's become pretty apparent that the conversation is not going anywhere. And of course, the usual trick for that is, if you're in a conference, is I must just pop to the restroom. That's usually a good one. Or there's a lunch queue or a coffee queue, and you get in the coffee lunch queue, and so seemingly the individual you're speaking to is perhaps not next to you now at that moment. So there are ways you can get out of conversations if it's clearly not going anywhere. But you know, at the end of the day, we're there to make some contacts. And as Jennifer said earlier, the expectation is not to connect with all 300 attendees at the conference. It's to have a reasonable number at the beginning, and hopefully do your research before you even go to define who that will be.
That's a really interesting point, and I think that's the important thing is that feeling of not having to feel like you need to speak to everyone there. And I think that's a great hack to sort of give yourself a number of how many people that you want to speak to, and doing it that way. So I think that's a really interesting point. And just to touch on the LinkedIn side of that, Vince, like, do you when you're sort of making those connections, obviously sometimes there's that opportunity to sort of send a message. Like, would you recommend doing that when you make a new connection, sort of reaching out and saying something to them once you've connected?
Yeah, definitely. Something like, it was great to hear you speaking at the conference today. And I would very much like to connect with you, blah, blah, blah. The other thing I would say is, when you do a message, if you've been to an event, you should be connecting with that individual within 24 hours. Because if you leave it later than that, they'll have forgotten you, or they'll have even forgotten what the relevance is. So I would suggest, if you meet someone, and even if you weren't able to meet that person, because you know what it's like with a speaker, they get a whole pile of people pile onto them to speak to them at the end, or they clear off very quickly. My advice then is to say, is to actually still get in touch and say, I was there in the conference, heard your great speech, wasn't able to connect then, but I'd very much like to do that now, and hopefully we can then discuss further, blah, 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 etc. So yeah, absolutely. Reach out to people and put a message. There's no, I get loads of connection requests with no messages from people who I don't even know who they are, and I stopped adding them ages ago.
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting thought, actually. So yeah, so even if you didn't necessarily meet someone, I think that's a great point. Andrew, would you like to?
Yeah, Vince just mentioned what I just wrote into the chat. So there's a lot of people who won't accept connections if there's no message that goes along with them. So yeah, always right to say, we met so and so, so where, we know so and so, we're connected by this, just to give some context and a bit more personality to it. That's a lot more successful.
And I think there's something in there as well. I think, we've spoken quite a lot about interacting with sort of quite senior people and sort of speaking to speakers and that, but there's, I think there should be something in here. Hopefully Jennifer and Vince, you'll have thoughts on this about networking like horizontally and rather than just vertically, and sort of like expanding your network amongst sort of peers. So I don't, Jennifer, I can see you nodding, so if you've got any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the way to have a really successful event or a conference or even a networking thing is to have that connection with your peers. You don't know what they're doing or who they know or where they're going next, but also it's an opportunity to talk on the same level around, what do you think of that speaker? That wasn't my experience, or I've not felt that before. Have you felt that before? How did you hear about this conference? Is there a network that I'm not aware of? That's so valuable. And I think that helps with the value as well. You know where that person is and you know how what that feels like. So you can bring an opportunity of, have you heard about Fliss? Have you heard about Wes? Have you heard about other areas? Or did you hear about this LinkedIn thought leader? They're really good. They commented back. Like, there's an opportunity to do that. I also think it re-energizes you throughout the day or the event if you speak to someone who you're not in awe of, almost, because some of the speakers, Vince is right, they get circulated and you're kind of like trying to say your words clearly so that they kind of hold their attention. It's nice to stand in a lunch line and speak to someone who is also a graduate or also in that stage, and then connect with them and message them and say, our conversation really energized me for the second set. I hope your travel back to Sheffield was smooth. Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's some of my best connections and some good friends have come from lunchline chats and conferences of peer-to-peer.
Yeah, and I can add to that. I totally agree. It's not all about vertical. And in fact, the horizontal may lead to vertical, because actually there's loads of people who are connected to others. One of the best ways, of course, to be connected to people on LinkedIn is to look for a mutual contact. So if I'm looking to connect with someone, the best way is if I know Fred, for example, and Fred is connected to Alison, that Fred introduces me to Alison. All right, that's the best way of getting connected. The other thing I would say about LinkedIn is, if you think, I don't know if we've got people on the call here today who are do jigsaw puzzles, but think of networking and LinkedIn as a jigsaw puzzle. So what you do with a jigsaw puzzle is you find pieces, perhaps at the edge or somewhere, where you can build pieces around them. And that's what networking is. Networking is having a contact and then building contacts around them. So if you think of jigsaw puzzle, then you've got networking on LinkedIn, because that's exactly what it is. And what the aim is to build that infinite sized jigsaw puzzle, which allows you to open up opportunities. And I would say over the last 20 years of my career, every job I've got has come through networking. None of it's been advertised or anything. 20. So that's almost half of my career. The jobs have come through networking.
I do
Which,
think that is changing slightly now, though. I think there is a sort of move away from, well, as much as like networking does sort of help, I do think, and that's why I suppose it helps you find those jobs. Definitely, you know, networking does help you find those jobs. But yes, I do agree on that.
And I think there's a lot to be, just building on that, there's a lot to be said. Maybe it doesn't sign your job, but recently my one of my friends started a new job, and I was at an event where I met someone from that same organisation, and I said, "Oh, my friend's new. She just started this week. She would love to connect with you, I'm sure." And this person went on internal Teams and was like, "Hey, heard you're new. Spoke to Jennifer. Let's grab a coffee." That is so valuable in your first week, 10 days. That would never have happened unless I'd said, "Oh, my friend's here." So it might not get you the signature on the contract, but it definitely supports you in embedding into the next organisation, what organisations feel and look like. If I'm moving to a new organisation, I will always find people on LinkedIn who are my connection from university or sports or friends, and say, "Hey, what's it like working in that organisation?" Because you're not going to get to ask those questions to that detail in the interview, and that is really good information to have.
Definitely. And I think that's also a really good thing with LinkedIn as well, when you're sort of looking for jobs and applying, you know, often you'll get the name of the people who are interviewing you. And I think one of the best advice I can give on LinkedIn is get over the fear of knowing that other people are looking at your profile. That is no bad thing. So if you get, you know, the names of who's on your interview panel, and go and look them on LinkedIn, actually they'll see that as a really positive thing. And look at what they're doing, look at their background, and you can almost, I've actually brought up someone's previous career history in an interview, and they thought it was really interesting that I'd sort of done a bit of research into them, because interviews are definitely a two-way as well. I'm just aware we have 15 minutes left, so just because I want us to be able to get out into these break rooms, but what if I know there'll be a chance in the break rooms, but if there were any more questions for Vince and Jennifer at the moment. Seen Julia said sponsorship can come from sponsorship can come from horizontal connections. Absolutely right. Later in career, moving boards, non-executive directors almost exclusively through networking. That's really true. Yeah, when the sort of higher up you go, the more it is about networking. So that's a really great point to make. Anything else? Brilliant. So I am just going to be able to I'm just going to open the rooms. I'm hoping this is gonna work. Yes, hopefully you will all be able to go into a breakout room any minute. We'll see how this goes. Let's give this a go. So has that worked? No, I don't think that has worked, actually. I think I've just thrown everyone into one meeting room. Bear with me one moment.
Oh no, there's a join room thing.
Well, we got half. Oop. Tell you, these breakout rooms. It's a crowded breakout room.
They're very crowded. I feel like it's only opened one meeting room, one breakout room. Gosh, I think it has only just. Find some people. So it just seems to have dumped everyone into one meeting room, which is helpful. So bear with me one moment.
I think there are two, Ellie, because I can't see Mince or Jennifer in this one.
Ah. I think the
Okay, let's see what happens there. Right. I think that's worked. Said that far too confidently, didn't I?
but Jennifer and I were in the same group, but it looks like we're not now. So
I think I've just tried to move you guys into different groups, so it was a bit more spread out.
No, that's fine.
Because the random group allocation didn't work. So that's works. Okay.
There we go.
That's worked. Right. Are you happy with that?
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Am I still sharing? No.
I can hear you. How you two shouldn't be in the same meeting room. I'm really sorry. I seem to have really fluffed this up. I practiced and everything. See, things just don't always go to plan, and sometimes that's absolutely fine.
That's totally fine. We're just discussing the questions that we had sent, and some people who signed up today haven't received them. So I was going to share my screen, but maybe it's better for us just to chat through them. I can read them out.
Yeah,
I've just checked. Jennifer isn't in this room.
No, I am in this room.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
So the other room are going, going alone because all and Ellie's here too now.
God. Let me just. Which room? This is going to start. Which room is this? This is.
I don't think it says to me what room it is.
If I can throw. You guys are literally meant to be in different rooms.
Well, given the time we've got left, Ellie, I think should we just do what Jennifer suggested, which is basically just talk through the points, and then
I might just throw everyone's back into it, like just close the meeting room so everyone is actually in the same
Okay,
could
fair.
do that.
spot.
We could do that if we've got some missing in the other, somewhere in the ether in the other room.
Yeah, just throwing everyone back in the same room.
Yeah,
Okay, let's do that then. Right. I'm so sorry.
it's all right. That's all right.
We're moving people back in. Right. So we hope everyone enjoyed musical chairs. My finest of event management moment, so I do apologize. Right, I'm hoping we have everyone back in. Again, I really apologize for that. I don't know what's happened with the tech. I will blame myself though. Right, so Jennifer, you were just talking about the questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we, as a team, sent a list of questions, which I'll copy and paste into the chat now, because depending on when you registered, depends on when you received the questions. And one thing, there's 3 questions, but as of time, I think the one that's most important and vital for us to discuss or think about individually is, what is the one action you think you'll take from this, or you want to take from this session, and how will that be actioned? So I'll let you have a little think as I put this exact question into the chat. What is your networking goal? Think of one specific goal you'd like to achieve through networking, and then what are the actions that you could take to your commitment. So for example, I've had a lot of time to think about this because I am here. But my thoughts were that I am going to, for the next, let's say, week, everybody who likes or comments on one of my posts, I'm going to make sure that I connect with them for a second or third, and then like or comment on one of their posts. So gamify it. I'm going to spend 10 minutes in the morning while I am warming up to go through all the posts that I write and reply and add those people so that I'm connecting with the right people. Julia.
Let me just lower my hand. Yeah, I was thinking about this and how I was going to hone my brand a bit more, sort of based on some of the things that Vince spoke about via LinkedIn. And I think because I'm also going to be coming back from mat leave in just over 2 months now, I'm going to try and post every day leading into the end of my mat leave from the beginning of May until the end of June. And then do something similar. So just sort of reconnect with my current network because I've been out of the game for a bit. Understand what's going on across that landscape. Do what similar to what you just said, Jennifer. Comment, interact with people that do like those posts, and just reintroduce myself really, and kind of also learn a bit more about myself.
That's a really good one. Every day is a lot. I'm impressed.
I know.
Vince,
I've got a plan.
up.
I've got a plan. I'm going to schedule it.
Managing expectations as well with yourself and not setting goals that are very ambitious.
You know me.
But I do very well. But it is, you know, sometimes it is good to set ambitious goals like that. You know, sometimes it does help. Vince, do you have a?
Yeah, let me one that I've just done. I mean, I talked about mentoring and sponsorship. So I've just come back from a women's leadership empowerment conference in Prague, and one of the workshops we had was a very impressive lady called Dasha, who ran a workshop on public speaking and communication, effective communication. So I spoke to her at the conference and said, right, I'm going to advertise you because I think you know she knew a few people, but her knowledge of people in other organizations wasn't very wide. So actually I've come back and I'm a member of an organization called STEMazing, and I actually have now sponsored her to STEMazing to the point that she will actually give a talk on public speaking and communication at some stage. So I you know, this for me is the most important reason I use LinkedIn. It's to connect with people, but even more so, it's to highlight what they have that they can use for others. And I think we can do that all the time. So my resolution is to keep doing that and to expand it to not just UK but globally.
Brilliant. It's a great one. Andrew?
So just following up from what Jennifer and Julie were talking about, posts and trying to get something out there, you know, often, which is on brand. One of the things that I want to try and get better at is scheduling my posts, because you don't have to do them live, and there are better times of the day to post things. So you can do your posts in advance and then schedule them to go out even for the whole week, you know, if you're that prepared. And I think the other thing that to let people know is that you don't have to come up with things off the top of your head. You don't have to be original. You know, use other people's posts, repost those, add your own comments, and then that links you back into their post as well. So as Vince was talking about, you've got this geometric multiplication of people that you can actually contact with. So, you know, use other people, but put your own spin on it.
Yes, just a couple of things that you touched on. as a marketing person, I could bore you all to tears about LinkedIn algorithms, but they are really worth having a look at, especially as they're doing quite a lot of tinkering with them at the moment. And there's things around how many people you tag. Sometimes that can actually like damage how your post performs, which is quite interesting, because if a lot of those people, if you tag a lot of people and they don't all interact with your post, then it thinks it's not relevant and it downplays it. So it's really worth it. If you're interested in that kind of thing, it's really worth reading up about it. And just to add on to everyone, you know, saying about posting more, I think commenting as well is also like, it doesn't always have to be about you posting, but you commenting other people's posts, reaching out, giving your thoughts is also a really impactful way of using LinkedIn. So yes, there's definitely lots to think about when it comes to LinkedIn. Anyone else have anything? Okay, well, I really hope people found this helpful. Like, thank you so much for coming and interacting. Again, apologies about the breakout rooms, but it's you know, it's actually been really great hearing everyone's sort of input here. So yes, I think I will bring this to a close. And it was lovely to meet everyone. So thank you all for coming, and we'll speak to you soon, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.